Hello everyone and welcome to GTA Online Racing episode 27 and welcome to the inaugural North Loop multi-class endurance race. Here are all the participants waiting my arrival in the parking lot, and basically this idea came about from me wanting to do an endurance race on the North Loop, one of my latest tracks, and I wanted to have a different aspect to it where it's multi-class racing. So as you can see in all of these teams we have one elegy and one penumbra, so there are 8 elegies and 8 penumbras. Now that is how it was going to be, and that was the idea from the start. But obviously the guys on the Nonchalant Dominance, the crew forums, they decided to take it upon their own to make teams. So we all decided to make some teams and do it properly. There's my team, the Pinot Colony team. Obviously we've got the Vanilla Unicorn team. This was for Patriot Beers. You know, basically what every team at Atomic Tires, by the way, every team took a GTA business like Zero Gas and Pressivex, for example, and then modded up their cars and coloured their cars to look like that business. Obviously, you know, Life Invader, that was one of the first ones that started this whole thing, the Ron Gas team. And it actually turned out really well that we had all these different teams based on GTA 5 sponsors. And we had a really fun time doing that, and there was a lot of role play going on the forums as well in terms of press releases from the teams and things like that. But the main part of this whole thing was the actual race, so we did have a race to do. Now the idea is that there are 8 penumbras and 8 elegies, so we all share the same track and we're all racing at the same time. But obviously all the penumbras are racing against each other and all the elegies are racing against each other. Although they are all both in the sports class, the penumbras are a hell of a lot slower than the elegies. So really it was a separate two separate races going on at the same time. As you can see there, all of the elegies go off straight away. Now my first lap on this isn't too great, and I wouldn't say it was my own fault. I get hit off quite a few times, and then I have to do a bit of a comeback throughout the course of the race. But as you can see, it starts at night. Now this is an endurance race as well, so it's 10 laps of the North Loop, which lasted about an hour. So I did this on PS3 and Xbox 360, and it was all organised on my crew forums. So if you aren't a member of those, if you aren't even a member of the crew, then all the links are in the description down below. So yeah, as you can see, obviously there's a huge difference in speed between the elegies and the penumbras. Why they are both in the sports class, I'll never know, but for racing terms it's not competitive to be using a penumbra, and that's why I decided to choose the penumbra as the other class that would go with the elegies for this race, because I wanted to have a big gap to showcase what we could do with multi-class racing. Now I will talk a little bit about multi-class racing a bit later on, but basically it's the idea that you have 2 different classes in the same race, and you know, it doesn't matter how many people you have in that race. If you have 4 people, you would have 2 people in one class and 2 people in another class, and you basically share the same racetrack, you share the same race, but you have 2 different winners at the end, and all of it is split evenly, so you're having basically 2 races in one, but you are sharing the same piece of track. So obviously this is an endurance race. You know, the main point of this was to show off multi-class racing, which obviously, you know, in normal races doesn't necessarily have to be in an endurance format. But I just wanted to have an endurance race because it's a lot more fun. I really like endurance racing in general. The World Endurance Championship I watch a lot of the time, and as you know, I go there as well. So this was where this idea came from, really. And in World Endurance Championship races you have different classes all racing against each other, and it's up to the faster classes to get around the traffic. You know, that's all part of the racing. And as you'll see in this race, the elegy guys do lap us, because it is 10 laps, it is an hour long. Although it's a big lap, it does, you know, the elegy guys do eventually lap us, and because of the crossover section as well, we see elegies a lot of the time in there also. So it was the perfect track to do it on, really. And because it is an hour long, you do see the full sort of day and night cycle in this race as well. Obviously the video isn't an hour long, it's just basically the highlights of the race, the best bits. But if you do want to watch the full PS3 version of the race, you can do that. That links will be in the description down below, because I did live stream that one, and you can watch the full PS3 version of the race from start to finish. And we also had a little bit of chat afterwards and rain in that one, so there was a little bit more to it in that race. So yeah, basically at this point I'd been knocked off, my car wasn't exactly in the best shape, so I decided to just respawn. I thought, why not, I'm at the back anyway. I did expect a little bit better from the nonchalant dominance races in this one, but never mind. So yeah, basically this is our first sort of cut in the action, and we're cutting to about 6 minutes in the future, where we're on the same point of the next lap essentially. So each lap with penumbras is a little under 6 minutes, and that's why the 10 lap race is about an hour long. So basically, to keep following the action whilst we do these sort of cuts between boring parts of the race, every time you see a change in the daylight or anything like that, we have noticed that there's a cut, have a look in the bottom right hand corner at the timer, because that will keep you up to date on where we are in the race. Obviously, at the last cut I was at 3 minutes when I got knocked off and respawned. Now we're at 9 minutes, so it's taken me 6 minutes, pretty much a single lap, to catch up just to 15th and 14th place. That's because I was just so far behind, really. So yeah, I am managing to sort of work my way back up, but everyone in this lobby is a good racer as well. They are quite quick, so it works in my favour. I guess you could say that it is an endurance race, because it does give me more time to catch up, being so far behind after the respawn. So yeah, basically I'll let you sort of keep up with the action as it goes along. Remember to keep looking at the timer every time you see it sort of fade into a different point of the race, and enjoy the kind of the nice views and the different times of the race. Obviously daylight, we get the sun rising, then we have daylight, then we have the sun going down, and then night comes around again. It's quite an interesting little fact to the race, and I would certainly recommend you doing an endurance race at some point, especially on this track, because you get some fantastic views. So the main point of this video really is to talk about multi-class racing, not necessarily in an endurance format, just in general for GTA Online. Now, how would that work? Well, the way I envisage it is that you just have a separate option like you do for rally racing, like you do for non-contact racing. There would be a separate option for multi-class racing, and all it would do is change the classes that you can choose from 1 to 2. So basically, you at the moment in a normal race you can choose the class that race is for if you are the host, so sports, super, SUVs, whatever you want. In a multi-class race there would be 2 options, so you would choose one class, the first class, say supercars, and then you would choose the second class, say coupes, and then it would randomly assign people in the lobby to whichever class, just a random class. So say for example you decide to host a 5-lap multi-class race on the Los Santos Grand Prix circuit. You choose coupes as your first class and supers as your second class. So 5 people are randomly assigned to the coupes class and 5 people are randomly assigned to the supers class. If you have 10 people in the lobby, it always tries to keep it even, so if there's 9 people for example, it would be 5 and 4. And then in the lobby screen, those who have been assigned to the supers just choose their supercar. Those who have been assigned to the coupes choose their coupe car. And then you just have a normal race as you would normally expect. But this time you are sharing the track with other different cars. So the way that the grid would work would be whichever you choose first would be sort of at the start. So if you wanted to have all the faster cars at the start to avoid as many problems as possible, then you could choose supercars as your first class, and then they would be all starting together at the front, and then all of the coupes at the back. But you could also switch it around and have coupes as your first class, and they would all start at the front. So it's up to you how you would do it. Then when it comes to the end of the race, you would basically, the scoreboard would look just as it does now, but you would have a different colour to denote those who are in a different class of car. So after that point, then the winners all get the same amount of RP, the winners all get the same amount of money and things like that, and the winners of both classes also get 1 win for their win-loss ratio as well. So because you might have come set in 6th place in the race overall, but because you actually won the coupes class, then you get a win as normal, and you get the money and RP for winning as well. So that's how it would work, 2 different races going on at the same time, all sharing the same track. So you are sort of in the same race, but you are in different races, if you like. You are only racing against the people in your class. Now there's 2 different ways you could do this if you had multi-class racing enabled. You could have it like we've done it here, where there's one class that's a lot quicker and one class that's a lot slower, and I've done that on purpose in this race just to showcase kind of what that's like. So this is an example of having sort of sports cars with compacts, if you like, because the Penumbra is pretty much on the pace of the other compacts. It's that slow. So this would be like having a sports cars race with a compacts race, but you could also have a sports cars race with a supercars race, something like that, which is going to be a lot closer. The Elegy is on the pace of the supercars. Chances are, when you have a lot of randoms in, if you're in the slower Elegy, you could probably beat a couple of supercars as well if you're good enough. That sort of thing would come into its own. You don't just have to have a big gap between the performance of the cars. You can have small gaps and all of you go for the overall win. Now, the points and the scoring and all that kind of stuff would remain the same when it comes to if you finish second in an Elegy and a Zentorno finishes first, you would still both get the same amount of RP and money because you've both won your each individual class. But it just adds a different dimension to it, and there's sort of bragging rights that go along with that. So just to go back to the action just a little bit, here are the Elegies sort of coming round to lap us. Now this is something else that you have to be aware of in endurance racing. Now this probably wouldn't happen so much in normal racing, multi-class racing, because people generally do short number of laps. But you do have to be aware of this when you're doing an endurance race like this, and especially for a multi-class endurance race. You want to stay out of the way of the Elegies. The Elegies want to stay out of your way, and they just want to get past you as quickly as possible. But again, it's another added dimension to the race, and I really enjoyed that. Although I was getting overtaken by Elegies, I'm aware that I'm not racing against them. I'm just wanting to get out of their way, let them race their own races, and just try and use the traffic possibly to my advantage if the guy in front of me gets slowed down, which he does a little bit here. So the guy in front of me here is in second place for the Penumbras. I'm in third place, and it's taken me about half an hour to catch up to him. Now, he actually overtook me on the first lap. If you go back and have a look, you'll see that the white Penumbra that overtakes me on the first lap, he then subsequently gets overtaken, and we don't see the guy in first place. Since then, the guy in first place in the Penumbra is just gone. But I'd take half an hour of the race to catch up on the back of the guy in second place in the Penumbras now, who is just in front of you there, and he's called Blue-Eyed Malice. So basically, I'm on his tail for a lot of the race, but when you have traffic and you have Elegies trying to get past you, and it is an endurance race, you have to keep your concentration. As you saw there, I lost a bit of concentration there with one of the Elegies coming round to pass me. But then Blue makes a mistake here as well, and it's really close between us once again. So endurance races like this, they have ebbs and flows to them. You kind of, sometimes you do a good lap, you might make a mistake every now and again, and I was certainly very, very rusty in this race because I hadn't raced for quite a while and I didn't get that much practice in. But it has ebbs and flows to it. You will make mistakes, other people will make mistakes. It does change the course of the race as you go along. Now I get a really, really good exit out of that last corner there, and I managed to sort of just creep up to the back of him here, and this is pretty much the best chance that I've had to get up into second place in the Penumbras. Now there's no way I'm going to get first at this point. I was way too far behind at the start. There was no way I was going to be able to catch up to first at this point. So second is probably the best that I can do. Now I get the overtake done there, and I'm hoping that I can just keep it for long enough, because we have been battling for quite a while. But unfortunately, just in that little section there, it all messes up a little bit, and we basically go at it again for the rest of the race. Now, I was pretty much racing against Blue for the whole race. Once I'd caught up to him, he would get away a little bit, I would catch him back up in different parts of the track where we were each stronger, but we were pretty much racing for the whole rest of the race. He ends up getting the better of me and finishing second. I end up finishing third. But my teammate in the Elegy and the Penal Colony team actually won, so our team won overall on the points, and that happened as well on the PS3 race. So we did quite well there. So yeah, basically, if you do want to see the PS3 race, definitely go check it out, because I have a really, really good race there over first place in the Penumbras. It was just so good. We were just overtaking between me and this other guy all the way for about halfway through the race. So definitely go check that out. It is an hour long, obviously, but it's quite entertaining. So yeah, that's pretty much been my sort of showcase of multi-class racing in general and the inaugural North Loop multi-class endurance race. Now I'm sure we're going to be doing more of these. I might mix it up a little bit and I might spectate the next one and have sort of 5 teams of 3. We'll see how it goes, but yeah, expect more of this sort of thing from me. If you did enjoy it, let me know. Leave all your comments down below. If you want to see multi-class racing just in general in GTA Online, leave all your comments down below. Let me know. Leave a like if you enjoyed, and thanks a lot for watching, everyone. I'll see you next time.